Hello, everybody. Today is April 1st, and I have something very special up my sleeve for today. As of today, this is no longer an art and comic channel. This is now a gaming channel, and today we are going to speedrun Diva Stars Mall Mania on the Game Boy Color. Okay, no, I'm joking. But I do have something special for you all today. I think it's a very appropriate topic today. We're gonna talk about a classic Batman comic, one that's fairly infamous, and you'll see why soon enough. First, though, I want to talk about this collection of Batman comics that it's included with. This collection is The Joker, The Greatest Stories Ever Told, which came out in 2008, but I believe it's actually a reprint, kind of a reprint of a very almost identical collection that came out, I think, in the late 90s. So it's very similar to something that's already came out. I didn't know that until recently, until I was doing research for this episode. I really like how it's printed. It's got a very newsprint style paper, and I've talked about this in a previous comic review. Sometimes the difficulty of reprinting old comics is often they're reprinted on a very bright white paper, where these older comics would have been on a kind of yellower newsprint. And the problem is you kind of need to adjust the colors to take that into consideration, because if you put the original colors on a very bright white paper, you can end up with a really oversaturated color scheme, and it doesn't really look the way they were originally intended to. And Comic Tropes has a really great video discussing the comic coloring processes over the years, and he talks about the difficulties of keeping reprints true to the original colors without it looking a little weird and garish. So I'm going to link that somewhere so you can check it out. I think it's a super great video. For this particular video, I'm going to be using scans that I found online rather than go through and scan my own copy panel by panel. These scans came from a blog called Blah Blah Blah. I'm also going to link that below so you can check it out. Looking at these particular scans on the blog, the colors seem to be pretty wonky. It might have been a printing problem with this specific copy. I don't know if every copy of this issue looks a little bit weird. Based off of this, though, you can see that the physical print that I have has been color corrected, and it does have a little bit of the oversaturation that I mentioned, but I don't think it's to any detriment. I think this new print looks really nice, and I don't feel like I need to read it with 3D glasses on. But enough about that. You guys want to see what is so exciting about this particular Batman issue. The issue in question, of course, being the Joker's Comedy of Errors from Batman number 66, which was released in 1951. This is written by Bill Finger, who had a huge impact on the Batman mythos. A lot of people would argue that it's Bill Finger and not Bob Kane that's the true creator of Batman, but that is a can of worms for another episode. The most important thing for this video is that he's responsible for what we're about to read. So let's take a look. So you've probably committed a few boner... What? Right off the bat, no pun intended, we're hit in the face with a boner. Yes, this is in fact the infamous chortle at Joker's Boner comic that, if you're like me, you just assumed that whatever snippet of the comic you read wasn't actually... It could not possibly have been a real Batman comic. This must be somebody being funny and editing an old Batman comic panel to make it seem naughty. Nope, it's all real, folks. The intro goes on to warn that the Joker has a special boner ready for Batman. Now, obviously, this comic is using the old-timey definition of boner, which is a silly or foolish mistake. It's us young people with our portable telephones and our Tamagotchis reading this comic with a dirty mind because our modern take on the word. It was a simpler time back then. Surely that's not what they meant. Or was it? Well, let's just keep reading. Our story begins with the Joker and friends. He's come up with a brilliant crime to rob the electric company by shutting off their electricity. Unfortunately, he's actually ruined his own escape plan because, with the electricity out, he can't take the elevator, and this gives plenty of time for Batman and Robin to show up and foil his plans. He gets away, but he doesn't take any loot with him. It's a real blunder. A real whoopsie-padoodle, a big old goof-up. The Gotham Gazette instructs us to chortle at Joker's boner. This enrages the Joker, who does not like to have his boners mocked. He is struck with sudden inspiration, declaring that soon Gotham City will rue the day that it mentioned the word boner. And thus, Joker's boner crimes begin. The first of Joker's boner crimes is to recreate an international incident in which a big ship got very stuck and the world memed the hell out of it. So, like, last year. The Joker is going to recreate that famous boner by forcing another very large cargo ship to run aground so they can rob it of all its loot. What's really funny is that as of writing this script, I did learn that a very similar ship to the Ever Given, the Ever Forward, has just ran aground in the Chesapeake Bay almost exactly in the way that the Joker's described. Wait a minute. Oh my god, the Joker was behind it all! Next, the Joker turns his boner escapades towards the castle of a rich oil baron who brags that his fortress is impenetrable. Well, the Joker's boners can penetrate anything. Recall the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It is a tall, vertically inclined structure, an erection, if you will. It is being described here as a great architectural boner. This is an architectural boner, all right, in every sense of the word. Just look at it. After the Joker taunts Batman with the threat that the next biggest boner will be his own, Dick, oh god, I forgot his name was Dick. Dick contemplates how the Joker could possibly force him into a boner. I mean, I have some ideas. Batman tries to predict the Joker's next move, saying he will study the greatest boners of all time. I too like to study great boners, except I like to do so under an incognito browser tab. Now, at this point, it is quite clear that they are saying boner way too much, and with increasingly hilarious results, and it's just a little bit too perfect to be an accident. At this point, you have to wonder, this has to be deliberate. The writers had to know what they were doing. So you know what? In the spirit of Batman, the world's greatest detective, we are gonna do some detective work. So, when did the word boner start meaning, well, boner? I did some digging and I found this question, more or less this exact question, being asked on a message board, and one user gave a very, very detailed response giving exact dates and exact dictionary entries pertaining to how the word boner is being used. It seems that the word boner, in the sense of a mistake, has been around since, at the very least, since 1908, perhaps being a corruption of bonehead, and it's said to originate from baseball. It was used heavily in reference to a bad play made by first baseman Fred Merkle of the Giants. Don't ask me what the bad play was. I don't understand baseball, but it has gone down in history as Merkle's boner. It is referenced actually on the first page of this Batman comic as baseball's classic boner, so this man has made boner history. Boner in the more penile sense seems to go back to this entry from the 1960s, but you'll see it bone as a penis euphemism goes back quite a bit farther. When you consider that a dictionary definition would probably imply that that meaning has been in place for a while, I think Bill Finger knew exactly what he was doing. Back to our story. After the Joker busts one of his cronies out of jail because somehow he knew that the guard was going to be the dumbest person on the planet, he readies his big boner for a Batman. His master plan is to use a powerful radio signal to bait Batman off course on his flight to California and send him instead to England. Batman falls for this master bait and the world laughs at Batman's enormous boner. Which kind of begs the question, according to my exhaustive research, between the Batplane's maximum speed of 4,400 miles per hour, and when you use the distance between the canonical location of Gotham and England, this one-way flight should actually have taken less than an hour. So, when you consider that return speed, How the hell did the newspapers in Gotham manage to report on his arrival to England this fast? It's gonna take them longer to write the article than it took for him to get back. He's gonna be back by the time anyone hears he was in England in the first place. Of course, these days, Kim Kardashian farts in a hot tub and you hear about it 2 minutes later. The Joker celebrates his victory and the climax of his boner crimes with his cronies, but to his dismay, Batman has found his new secret hideout. It turns out Batman knew exactly where he was going. I would assume flying over several thousand miles of water instead of land was probably his first hint. He just kept going so that the Bat Radar could track the source of the signal and therefore locate the Joker's hideout. The boner is once again on the Joker, who is so busy forcing one on Batman that he didn't realize he had made one himself. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if he is the mayor of Gotham or if his name is just Mayor, says that the biggest boner of all is to lose faith in the Batman. And that concludes this infamous chapter in Batman history. I hope that you enjoyed this journey with me and that you learned something as well. I'll be making more videos like this in the future, so please subscribe if you want to see more. You can also support the channel by donating to my Patreon page, and feel free to check out my art on these various platforms. Thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely time reading comics.